Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us here today. We are going to be speaking on the topic of sustainability in digital fashion. My name is Emily. I am absolutely thrilled to explore this topic with some of my own favorite names and designers within this field. So we are today and this weekend witnessing some amazing advancements and amazing examples of design in the digital fashion field. However, we are all designing and operating in the midst of an existential climate crisis. We are operating within a niche of an industry that produces more carbon emissions than the aviation and maritime industries combined, creates products using crops that are some of the heaviest consumers of pesticides of any, either that or plastic, dumps chemicals straight into wastewater, rivers, and exploits labor of both humans and other animals. So, yet, fashion sustainability in the more traditional sense does not accept often our branch of what we do as a valid way forward for fashion sustainability. We here are all here because we believe that digital fashion is the future. So we here on this panel are here to explore this subject and how what we are doing does or does not contribute to a more sustainable fashion future. So my own intro is that in 2019, I studied digital fashion within a master's degree as trying to figure out a more sustainable future for fashion, and wound up in this very, very interesting field. I more recently have published some research with the Center for Sustainable Design on why brands should adopt virtual fashion practices, and just submitted a final draft for a chapter in a book called Accelerating Sustainability, which at this point will probably come out next year. I was also co-founder of Gravity Layer. We did interoperability within metaverses for digital fashion assets using just a single NFT, regardless of the graphic style. I then would like to pass it over to the rest of the panel to introduce themselves.
Hi guys, I'm Stephy Fung, and I'm a digital fashion artist. I tend to create digital fashion and sell them as NFTs.
Hello. Is this, yeah. I'm James Mack. I am an art director and sort of 3D generalist working in digital fashion.
Hello everyone, my name is Morchen. You can always call me Moshi. And there are a few facts about me. I am a digital fashion designer. I have my own brand called Chic. It's a gender-neutral brand. And also I work for University of Oxfordshire as a lecturer. I teach fashion. My goal is to bring digital fashion to teaching lives. And also I'm here today to represent Artisant. I'm a community manager at Artisant. Artisant is a digital fashion marketplace. Our goal is to inspire, educate, and support digital fashion designers, prepare them for the future of digital fashion.
Hi everyone, I'm Daniella Loftus. I am a digital fashion influencer, investor, and founder. So I founded This Outfit Does Not Exist, which is a digital fashion content platform back in 2021. I'm also an investor through a digital fashion focused investment vehicle called Red DAO, and I am the founder and CEO of a platform called DRAUP.
Cool, I'm so glad everyone else just spoke. I ran up the stairs to get here and I'm like, cool. So there are many, many aspects of fashion, traditional fashion, which are unsustainable. So I would like to hear from each of you what you would say are the key benefits, or let's say one key benefit of digital versus physical fashion. You just go down the row.
Yeah, I think one benefit of digital fashion is the fact that, you don't have to waste as much resources. And one of the reasons why is that, usually with physical fashions, if you want to create something, show it to the client, you have to make it physically, source the actual materials, and then, you might have to do loads of iterations, make it again, change it. With digital fashion, you could do all of that, but with the click of a button on your computer. And it's so quick. You can change the color, you can change the material, and it's a lot quicker, it saves a lot of time, it's a bit more efficient as well.
I agree. but also I'll chip in with, I think that it's really can shift labour and how unethical a lot of labour is, particularly surrounding fast fashion, and the change towards a more digital platform hopefully can offer an alternative to that.
I think digital fashion has made fashion more accessible to, especially to the individual designers. Imagine creating a brand, a small brand. You have to, in the traditional fashion sense, you have to get fundings and get all this money and materials in order to create a collection. However, digital fashion actually make it more accessible and easy for you to actually start your brand without spending a lot of money, spending a lot of funding.
I think to add to that, something that's very interesting about the fashion industry is that if you read any business book, it says you're aiming to look for where supply meets demand. So you go out into a market, you find out where there's product market fit and what people want, and then you create a product around that. The fashion industry does the entire opposite. So a collection goes down the runway, and then you're trying to stimulate demand for that collection. And what that obviously results in is heavy overproduction, a high degree of unsustainability, etc. And I think what's very interesting about digital fashion is digital fashion doesn't ask people to change their consumption behaviors. It allows this process of encouraging people to iterate their identities to continue, but you can transform that iteration, or let's say the regular consumption of entirely new items, which plays on base human instinct that the fashion industry is based on, to digital. And so I see it as a very compelling complement to the slow fashion movement, where you can iterate with your identity, you can experiment in the digital realm, and then you can actually consume products which you're going to really have for a long time, which you have purchased in a way that's considered physically.
Very nice. So some of the biggest culprits of creating fashion waste are those who frequently consume fast fashion and buy into the constant shopping, the idea of only wearing an outfit once and throwing it away. Why will this audience adopt virtual fashion, as you say, over their current consumption behaviors?
So I'm happy to start with that. I think the transition that we have been seeing for many years, but particularly enhanced since the pandemic, when a lot of the digital fashion movement went from being more scattered and underground to something that's proliferated, is our digital identities are going to become of increasing importance. What I think is interesting about digital identity is this is not a 5 years from now concept. This is not something that develops with the metaverse. This is something that we have been experiencing for 10, 20, 30 years. And on the one hand, you have the gaming-based identities, but far larger are the identities that we all form on social media. So, 4.7 billion people use social media. And these identities are very much curated from moments in our physical lives. And I think the shift that we are going to see happen is a movement to identities which are created fully digitally. So no tethering to the experiences you have in the physical world. And as that shift happens, and I think all of us on this panel have known it's an inevitability, but then things like Meta throwing their hat in the ring made it incredibly clear that it is inevitable, mean that increasingly the desire to express our identities online, the desire to self-express, to affiliate, to flex, that digital clothes enable us with, that's going to become the way that we interact. And as that happens, digital fashion will inevitably proliferate.
Would you repeat the question, just so I can double check I say the right thing?
We love the way you talk, Danny.
I was mesmerised.
You're talking so eloquently, we're all so nervous now.
Danny and I were both on a Twitter space somewhat recently, and when I saw you were also on this panel, I was like,
So sweet.
speak great. So the question, to repeat, was why will those who consume fast fashion most avidly adopt virtual fashion over their current behaviors?
Sorry. So I think that a huge part of why we consume fast fashion is the price point. and also that idea of wanting to constantly reinvent ourselves. And I think we can have a longer conversation about that, but it is a specific response to that. I think being able to wear something which you are physically there, as well as in the metaverse, but for instance, places like Artisant and AR filters offer opportunities for image making that we do consume, whether we agree or not, on Instagram, in a way that is cheaper than fast fashion, because ultimately AR filters should be free, are free generally, and then places such as Artisant Dress X offer a lower price point compared to some fast fashion that is consumed, I would say.
Can I answer as well?
Absolutely,
Okay.
by all means.
So I think also, with fast fashion, a lot of the target market is younger generation. I would also say the younger generation now is, not even now, the ones even, we're thinking about Gen Alpha, oh my gosh, even then, they're going to be even more tech savvy than us, right? So there's going to be a need for them, or they're going to be more in tune of having a digital version of themselves. It's going to be like second nature to them. And with the younger generation, you're really going to see more of, they don't really care about brands who sell lifestyles right now. That's like how they used to sell clothing to us, right? They want to know, they're a lot smarter, they want to know more about the process behind it, where it's made, what the materials are, who's making it. So, with digital fashion, there is a lot more transparency, and I feel like digital fashion can solve a lot of those issues that we currently are facing in physical fashion.
So then, on that note, are we waiting for, say, a decade for them to reach kind of consumer age for this to take off? Or how long do we think it's going to be until digital fashion consumption is widespread?
Happy to take this one as well. Yeah, sure. I mean, yeah, in terms of it being widespread with the general public, of course, right now there's certain barriers like education and accessibility to technology, I would say. So, right now, if you want to know about digital fashion, it all seems kind of gimmicky in the public main space. So I think having that kind of more educational platforms where you've got companies such as like the Fabricant or the Institute of Digital Fashion. I think Ravensbourne is opening a digital fashion course, I think. So, we're slowly getting there. And I think, the more that the public gets educated on it, seeing the possibilities of digital fashion, that will help. And then also, from a technology standpoint, I think there are some kind of problems with AR. It's good at the current point, it can get better. So, even just like resources online, even if you wanted to learn digital fashion, be a creator in digital fashion, there are resources online, but you have to dig deep and you have to dig hard on the internet to find them. So even just having, these educational platforms where all of the information's like in one place, that would really help, just so that everyone can like learn it together.
I think what Danny doing is really good as well, promoting digital fashion over social media, like how you can wear creative digital fashion garment that does not exist, right? That's exactly your Instagram name. So I think promotion, the events we're doing right now is in a way we're promoting what is digital fashion. We're educating general public, not even just digital fashion designers, but people in crypto don't even understand what is digital fashion. People in general public, they don't know what is crypto. They don't know what is digital fashion. So what we're doing now is very good. We're trying to explain what is digital fashion and just I think that's very important. Yeah.
Go.
I think the thing that I'll quickly add to that is what's very interesting is because Steffi, the things that you mentioned, like the lower price point, the younger generation is already adopting digital fashion in games like Roblox and games like Fortnite because it's, let's say, £8, admittedly on their parents' credit cards, but it's £8 to get, let's say, a Gucci item, even less. And they also have the spaces to wear it and the spaces to flex. And I think the people we're really going to be tackling is our generation plus, because, as I said before, you wear what you wear to self-express, to affiliate, to flex, which relies on a group of people around you appreciating how you present. And in the younger generation, there is that. You see it in Fortnite default culture. You see it in the way people operate in Roblox. But for our generation and above, I think there's a lot of, my friends wouldn't appreciate if I was wearing something digitally. Instagram's a good one because everyone's on Instagram, so that appreciation does happen. But a lot of people would say, why would I spend that to showcase who I am when I can spend fast fashion and do it in real life? So I think getting those people online is going to be much more of a struggle than this younger generation, Generation Alpha, Gen Z, where it's a pretty easy sell.
And what, therefore, is the role of the metaverse in adoption of this, like interacting and wearing these items in virtual immersive worlds, as opposed to, say, like the more social media wear, like Instagram, TikTok, and those more AR technologies?
I would say that wearing digital garments in a metaverse space is so exciting and so interesting because you get to play in a way that firstly you may not feel comfortable to in the IRL world, and you get to explore your identity, because I think Tamara was saying on the last panel about toothbrush on Google, and you don't have feet or arms, and like you don't have the limitations of the human form, and you can really explore who you are in a space where there's no judgment because you're not physically there. Like there is a level in which almost a shield that you can use and hold and become whoever you want to be, which is very exciting, and then there's some more problematic sides to that. But on the positive sides, that's very exciting.
And so one big consideration in the production of digital fashion is digital waste, or e-waste, if you will. The idea that creating 3D garments and their storage, their bringing down into the end user's digital space all require significant amounts of electricity. And I would say it's not particularly comparable to the production of a physical piece, but it's non-negligible. I calculated that in my own process, artistic practices with my own 3D computer, creating a digital fashion piece of moderate complexity was the equivalent of driving a Tesla about 30 kilometers. So, and that does not count its storage and its use by the end user. So I would be curious to hear, as many of you are practitioners in this space, what are your considerations around this electricity usage, and what do you do to curtail it in your own practice?
Yeah, so I guess for me, especially being a digital fashion artist and selling as NFTs, I think for me it's mostly doing one editions, like having bespoke editions, instead of going for mass production, which is of course what physical fashion does. So I think, even just like reducing and just like maybe limiting it to one, or even just like a few editions and then making it bespoke, that would definitely help. And then I think even just, especially on the NFT side, considering using proof of stake blockchains as well, which thankfully Ethereum has switched and merged into proof of stake on last Thursday. So it's like, finally. And but of course you don't have to use Ethereum. There's also Tezos, Solana, there's also a lot of other blockchains which are also, aware of the energy consumption. So I think, the fact that, these blockchains are all gearing towards being more energy efficient, that is a good step, and that happened within a few years. So, we can only just work towards, as a community, to like making it even better.
I think also from technology side, Apple launched ARM. Apple Silicon has significantly, reduced the power they use in a MacBook Pro, in M1, M1 Pro. This kind of a newer generation from Apple. I think our technology is evolving. With newer technology, we can definitely reduce electricity we use during rendering, for example.
And I think around that, there's a real argument that, technology and the processes at the moment, obviously they generate negative environmental impacts. Still not to the stage or the state of the physical fashion industry, but they do nonetheless. But because what we're dealing with is technology and the speed of innovation can be so much faster than what we can have in the physical fashion industry, and one of the biggest things, exactly as we've just said, is the merge, which reduced Ethereum's energy consumption and its CO2 emissions by 99.99%. And I think it led to 0.2% entire global decarbonization, which is pretty insane. We can continue having these iterations that can happen at a far more accelerated pace. So there's an amazing hope on the horizon for our medium becoming increasingly more sustainable. And I also think what's interesting is if you look at the composition of people who have come into the digital fashion space, the majority of us came in from the beginning because we wanted more sustainability, be it in terms of the way people were financially compensated in the way that James said, or just the entire impact of the industry. So you really have people here who every day are thinking about this and thinking how to improve these conditions.
Yeah, I would also say, I think for me, I try to create projects that have socio-political purpose and an extent, and though that does not eradicate the carbon issues, I think that creating work that hopefully puts a message out that could shift other types of behaviour is how I try and think about it.
Thank you. All right, so now in some of my work with traditional fashion sustainability groups and advocates, those working in, for example, like vegan leather made out of mushrooms and more robust textile recycling, I have found that they are not receptive to digital fashion as a sustainability solution. I have heard the critiques that what we do might encourage more rapid trend consumption, which would then be reflected in fast fashion buying rather than replacing it. Does this, and this therefore would work against other group sustainability goals of more slower physical fashion consumption. What is your all's take on this? What behaviors have we seen in this space? What would be your countering to that argument?
I think every new technology has two sides. So you have people using it for good, and you have people using it for bad, right? So when you think about digital fashion, people can use digital fashion to shorten the lead time. For example, I create a whole collection within a week or two, right? And then straight away, I'll send these pattern pieces digitally to the factory, and the factory can produce the collection within 3 days. Now that's just crazy when you think about how digital fashion can shorten the lead time. But at the same time, digital fashion actually brought a lot of new business models. For example, like make to order. So for example, if you have your community, you can invite your community to vote on the particular fashion pieces they buy, or you can see how many people they bought these pieces from this collection. Then you can think about, okay, how many numbers of the total amounts you're gonna produce. So that's a really good, really good and sustainable business model to think about. For example, G-Money just launched his digital collection as well. What do you guys think?
I think that yes, I think that it's an interesting one because part of me thinks fast fashion through a lens such as the digital space, whereby it can be consumed, makes the physical fast fashion space less powerful. So there is one side of me where I'm kind of like, I can see that. On the other side, I also think, in terms of particularly trend-driven things, I don't think the space has really adopted the traditional season-based or even fast fashion, which is like, 3 weeks, 3-week-based amounts of time. I think it's kind of more people have been buying into ideas surrounding a creator. So like, for instance, one of your garments, if they were made physically, would probably be so expensive and so inaccessible at a price point. But for instance, going on Dress X, they are at a price point where someone can wear something that's absolutely incredible and bespoke and beautiful. However, it isn't necessarily as trend-driven as, well, Fashion Week.
I totally agree with that. And I think also there's a really interesting point to be made around whether or not what we wear in digital fashion is going to come to influence physical fashion trends. So in the way that film does, for example. But I would also bet, and I'm sitting with 3 of the most talented digital fashion creators in the industry. So I mean, this is far more up to you than to me. But I think we're going to see an increasing divergence away from even garments that look like physical fashion to a level where they're not replicable in the physical space. And again, I think that, and also as we become more comfortable with having digital identities which are less and less tethered to our physical forms. So exactly, James, you said, maybe we're not going to have any arms and legs, and then what you're designing for is totally different. And so then there won't even be able to be that reflection. And people will say, I'm this person online, I'm this person in the real world, and there'll be a total trend disparity.
Last thing, I think you're talking about the trends, right? And I think, even without digital fashion, this whole trend and like quick thinking and like our attention spans are reducing anyways, okay? Whether or not digital fashion is here or not. So, it's just the online culture. It's just how social media is. It's just how the world is right now. People want things instant. So I think even without digital fashion, that's still going to happen anyways. So my point of view is, would you rather, have that trend when I would say fast fashion brands make it, and go along with the trends, or would you prefer it with digital fashion where you don't actually have to waste any materials or as much materials, and it can still keep up with that demand? So that's what I think.
Really, really excellent points here. So then, we are almost out of time, but in the last minute, I would like to hear y'all's considerations between, if we're looking at virtual fashion falling into 3 particular categories of social media wear, immersive virtual world wear or metaverses, or virtual visualization for the point of like made to order or physical commerce. What are you most excited about from a sustainability point? Where do you see the most potential for change?
I'm very excited. I think the sort of social media side of it, genuinely, because I think that's going to filter into more and more of our day-to-day lives. Spectacles, for instance. I'm not saying everyone in 5 years is going to be wandering around with AR glasses, but I think there is going to be a shift in our day-to-day lives whereby that social media thing becomes more tangible almost and shifts into that space. And then I think, we'll all just be walking around in like morph suits and have this dress on. It'll be sick, but it'll be like AR. But it'll be like metal. Sorry, go on.
I definitely think digital will be the future because just like you said, I can't wear morph suits every day and just expecting people to have AR glasses to look at me, So I wouldn't want to wear something that I can wear in the real life, but at the same time I have a similar or more extravagant version in the metaverse or social media, AR future. I think that would be the future.
So I'm really excited to essentially see how Web3 technologies can be further integrated with digital fashion. So I don't want to just see digital design. I want to see it being reactive. So is it a dress that catches fire when the price of Louis Vuitton stock drops? How are we further integrating into the digital medium to use all of the technologies in a way that tells the story that the aesthetics also tell? So I'm excited for that. And I think around the sustainability proposition, as I said, it's going to be people starting to sub out those purchases, and my closet is literally full of thousands of random things that I now try to sell all the time that I bought in a moment where I saw a celebrity wearing like a fuchsia dress and I was like, what a great idea, I need to have one as well. When my identity digitally allows me to experiment to that extent and I can be a more conscious consumer and not do that, that's the world I'm excited for.
I think for me, there's this brand that I really admire what they're doing, and that is Artifacts. And they have, I did buy one of their recent NFT drops where you can swap this NFT token for a physical piece. I might have to wait 3 months for it, You know, it's not usual you wait, 3 months for your clothes to come through, but I'm willing to wait for it, and, that really excites me. Now, aside from them doing digital, so you got NFT tokens, swap it for a physical piece, they've also got digital avatars. Their whole community is doing different things with it. You can use it in the well, I think they're going to do it in the metaverse as well, but they've also got AR filters, so they are using all of these different points of digital fashion and merging it all together. So for me, just building this different world or different ways of using digital fashion, that is really what excites me.
Definitely. Well, thank you guys so much for your thoughts today. This is a really, really exciting perspective on sustainability in digital fashion. Thank you all for joining us.
Cool. Take a photo together.
I was just coming into it at the end.
Thank you again. That was absolutely brilliant. Another amazing panel. We're going to take another break for 15 minutes before we get into panel number 5, talking about how e-com and retail is going to be changing fashion metaverses.